Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shravanayapi Bahubhihi Yo na labhyaha Shrinvantopi Bahubhihi Yam na vidyuhu Ascharyo Vakta Kushalosya labdha Ascharyo jnata Kushala anushishtaha. Yeah, very nice verse talking about the magic, miraculous way in which this whole thing is a wonder. The teaching is a wonder. Why is it a wonder? Because it artificially breaks something that is one, which is what? The whole thing is one. Knowledge is one. Teacher is one. Taught is one. Teaching is one. All is one. Right? And this all that is one is made into two. Why? For the sake of seeing that everything is one. So we have a artificial or a arbitrary rather construct of shishya. Shishya means what? Shikshana yogya, student. Shikshana yogya. There are three kinds of words for student. One is vidyarthi, the desirer of knowledge. It's a general word. What kind of knowledge remains to be seen? You know, vidyayaha arthi, vidyarthi. And then the second word describes the second kind of person who is studying, antevasi. Antevasi means the one who lives with a teacher, in an ashram. What do they say? Inmate, and they use the same word for people that are incarcerated. Where are they incarcerated? In the zenitentiary. So this word, what is this word? Antevasin. Antevasin means the one who is living with the teacher. Living doesn't mean gaining knowledge, You can be living for years. People do, in fact. Fresh as the same day they came. Fresh in what? Ignorance. Freshly ignorant when they arrived, and freshly ignorant even today. Fresh. Everything is fresh, fresh, fresh. So that is also not a very good word. The third word is this word, shishya. Shishya means shikshana yogyaha. Yogyaha means who is deserving of being taught. That is the wonder. That the freshly ignorant person can graduate from being an antevasin, which is living with a teacher. Living with a teacher is not a big deal. It's overrated. Yeah, you can keep living. What will happen, Mostly nothing. And so the whole point here is graduating from being either a vidyarthi, the first one, the general desirer of knowledge. Who is the general desirer of knowledge? Some vague sense of dis-ease is felt in the body-mind-sense complex. I don't like me, and actually I don't care for anyone else either. So that is the vague sense of dis-ease. I don't like myself. I don't like nobody else, Yeah, the grammatical mistake was intentional. So I don't like anybody else. I don't like myself. And so what do? As a result, I just have this feeling something is wrong, and I want to get at the correct way of seeing what is wrong, and so that becomes a segue into gaining this knowledge. So that becomes Vidyarthi. So still not quite there. Then the next one is the one who keeps wanting to join an ashram. And this we have a abiding presence of such people, both in this town and also outside. I keep getting phone calls. I keep getting emails and phone calls, So what we have to tell the people is that is just a lakshana, an indicator. The wanting to give up everything is an indicator of vairagya. It must be not taken in as, instead of vairagya. No, it's an indicator of that. So continue doing what you want to give up. Oh, if I want to give up, why shouldn't I give up? You can give it up. Oh, really? When? When you don't care to give it up. That is the time to stop doing things. Yes. Because when is the correct time to drop something? This is always a question. When can I drop the ball? When you don't care whether you hold it or drop it. That is the true vairagya. And this goes for everything. This goes for all the things that one is in charge of doing, which is one's own swadharma, as we saw in Swamiji's lectures last week or this week. This weekend, this past weekend. So this is what it is. So the thing is, swadharma means what I have to do. If I get the strong feeling that it is coming in the way of my main pursuit, which is knowledge, which is what is that? That is the tipping crux of Shishyahood. But really, what is that hood? That Shishyahood is basically continuing to do what one has to do. And why to continue to do what one has to do? Because there are still strong feelings about doing it. So to give up something, the correct time to give up something is when you don't have strong feelings about either doing it or not doing it. Yeah. And that is what we say even about desires. The desire is fulfilled when it's let go of. Very strange logic. So if I let go of the desire, then why do I want it to be fulfilled? Isn't it strange? But that is the wonder. Ashcharya. The Ashcharya is this. So this Shishya who finally comes to an understanding of his or her own Shishyahood, which means I have discovered finally, after a number of false starts, I have discovered in me, what have I discovered in me? How to be yogya, fitting to gain this knowledge. Finally I have discovered. And then what? That is the time this wonder takes place. As soon as I start to say, I have Shraddha, I have Buddhi, I have this, I have that, I have commitment, how come nothing is happening? That's when something happens. Something is happening, and that's the wonder, because you cannot measure it like the presidential polls, which are in themselves extremely confusing. Half point ahead, 1/4 point behind, this, that, all over the place. It's like a big seesaw. But here, this is not something that can be measured, and that's why the word Ashcharya is used. It's almost subterranean. It's underground almost. It's almost esoteric in the way this law operates. The greater the Shraddha, the greater this blessing of this knowledge, which is a wonder. And if somebody were to say, what is, supposing, when all of you become famous teachers and writers, and you become very famous in Vedanta circles, and then, everybody is doing namaskar, and then people come to interview you and put a mic in front of your faces and say, tell me the point where you saw this, the truth of this. You won't be able to tell, correct? Because as I have said many times, and this quote-unquote enlightenment is not an event in time. If it's an event in time, what will happen? It will be an event out of time. It will end. It's not an event that happens to the self. There is no event that happens to the self. The self is the one because of which all events unfold. It is the Sakshi of all the unfolding of all the events. So the self cannot say, something is happening to the self. If something happens to the self, then that which happens is greater than the self, and there is nothing greater than the self, and this is the greatest wonder, Ascharya. So, Shravanaya api bahubhihi yona labhyah. So people who have desires, who don't have desires to learn, etc., in many times they are away from this knowledge. This one we have seen, And then what? The second kind of people have no problem with trying to gain the knowledge. They are eager, they are present, they are consistent, they are there all the time. Then what happens to them? Nothing happens. Like the buffalo standing in the rain. What happens? Nothing happens. Yeah, the hide of the buffalo is thick, right? Yeah. And if the hide of the buffalo is what? Is replaced for the brain, covering the brain, it is like that. Nothing happens. Shrinvantaha means they are ready to listen, they are listening, present continuous, present participle. You have not studied this, but it's a whole different thing, called Shatru and Shanach. These are, suffixes. So, meaning, Shrinvantaha means the people who are keeping on listening. Not just one time listen, ek bar sun liya, no. People who are keeping on listening, dutifully come to the classes, dutifully underline their Kathopanishad books, this is Kathopanishad, yes, and dutifully make certain marks and points, dutifully take notes. And then what happens? Nothing. So, this itself is a wonder, correct? This is the greatest wonder, is that even after listening, nothing happens. Meaning what? Vedanta, like this is where we left off last time, is the world's best kept secret. And why is it the best kept secret? Because it is kept even from the person seeking it. That is why it's the best kept secret. So that shows that there is some kind of a interesting synergy that isn't often talked about in the Upanishad, which is now being addressed, which we have to take seriously. And what is this synergy? The knowledge itself has a synergy, it's a blessing. And the knowledge with a correct giver of the knowledge, which is going to be discussed in the next verse a little more, and with a correct recipient, there is a synergy and a meeting point of the mind of the giver and the mind of the recipient. And this cannot be tracked or polled or measured. This just is. And it's a very sacred and a holy moment when the two come together in this wondrous union where the Shishya, the student, learns I am non-separate from the teacher. And that, that happens in the presence of a lot of grace operating over time. Great grace operating over time. And it's great grace for this teaching to come to alive in the form of not just words, because the words you can read in the book. And the teacher can just also repeat the words of his or her teacher. They don't carry the magic. They have to be actualized. When they are actualized, then that magic happens in that moment. And this is the magic that's being talked about. Ascharyo Vakta. Vakta means speaker. And we hear this in the Atharva Shirsha Upanishad also. And why Atharva Shirsha Upanishad? Even in the Shanno Mitrash. Chant that. Om Shanno Mitrasham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnururukramah Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Vritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadbhaktaram avatu Avatu mam Avatu Bhaktaram. Who is this Bhaktaram? Bhaktaram means teacher. Bhakta, the one who talks. Because there is no other talk other than the teaching. Other talk is non-talk. Tea time talk. What is the use of that? Yeah. Avatu Bhaktaram. And same thing in the Atharva Shirsha Upanishad, Vaktaram avatu. Vakta is teacher. Avatu mam. May this, may all these forces protect me. May they protect my teacher. Always the student teacher, that synergy is always highlighted everywhere in all the prayers. And why do we pray? Always. even in all the ashrams, we keep praying for Swamiji's health. Why? Because his presence, continues not just the parampara, but his presence is blessing so many people. And so the people that are blessed by it want him to be with them. That is really the only thing to pray for. Is that, and again the same thing is there in all the prayers. Apyayantu mamangani vak pranaschakshushrotramatho balamindriyani cha sarvani sarvam brahma upanishadam maham brahma nirakuryam. Yeah, may I never deny that this knowledge is correct. May I never deny Brahman. Mama brahma nirakarot. May I never be alienated or feel alienated from the whole, from the truth of myself. This is repeatedly, this has an abiding presence in this whole Upanishad. Because in not only this, in all the Upanishads, because this is very, very important. And here for the first time we have it, face to face, where this magic that happens. This Ashcharya means magic, this wondrous magic that unfolds in the presence of the teacher and the teaching, where the teaching comes alive. Otherwise it's just some dead words that don't speak. Here the words are speaking, and so it's the pramana, it's the means of knowledge, the most sacred means of knowledge, which is a second pair of eyes for me to see the truth of myself, despite all the noises and notions of myself. And this second pair of eyes are what? They are the holiest pramana, which is come alive, which is helping me to see. Ascharyo vakta kushalo asya labdha. Ascharyo jnata. The knower of this is very blessed. And kushalaha means is extremely well equipped. Is such a kind of a teaching. Anushishtaha means the one who is part of the lineage. Yeah. Who is part of the lineage? Don't look around. You are part of the lineage. It's like the same thing happened to me. When I first went to Swamiji, sometime he was sitting in the car, he was going somewhere, so a long time ago, we were all standing there, wishing him a good trip, and standing there with our hands folded respectfully around the car. Then he saw me and he said, come and sit in the car. Of course, I forget luggage. I did not even have shoes. I was barefoot, standing there. And so, of course, I thought it must not be me. I looked around. But, that is how. So don't look around to say, who is this Anushishta? Who is the part of this lineage? You are the part of the lineage because you have come to this place of being able to listen. That itself is a great wonder. And it's a wonder also of the way in which the knowledge progresses is a great wonder. Because one paradox I have already said, that which is one is made into two in order to show that it is one. Okay, what is the second paradox? The non-problem is made into a problem first by the student who comes to the teacher with the problem, correct? And then what? The non-problem is addressed by the teacher as a problem, as an as-though problem. And the as-though problem with which the student came is not even addressed. Rather, the general issue of why this particular problem is had by people is addressed and totally dismissed. Another paradox. So the non-problem is made into a problem. And then that's why the teacher has to have a sense of humor, like I said last time. You can't get too serious about this. Oh yeah, this samsara is bigger than Sandy, and then it will just encroach upon all of us. We have to have samsara inoculation. Like this, if I start to talk, everybody who listens They may be already depressed, they'll get more depressed. But if they are not depressed and cheerful, they will still get depressed. So the teacher has to have a sense of humor, has to have that much understanding as to go above this whole, thinking, feeling, which is the samsara. And the teacher also at the same time, while having the sense of humor, must have a certain creativity in presenting samsara in a way that whose bluff is called in as a result of listening of the lectures. And finally, the teacher must not, because of some wrong understanding of Vedanta, try to feel a one-upmanship on the student. Yeah. How do you say that? One-up-personship on the student. You cannot do that. You cannot say, you know what, you are still over there. And you don't have to say that. You can be patronizing even without saying that. In just your body language, in your demeanor, in how you relate to people, it's very easy to be patronizing. And we see this in ashrams all the time. So, how long have you been studying Vedanta? How long have you been with Swamiji? These kinds of talks. We don't need that. What is that? If it were the length of time, then we wouldn't even be here. You see what I'm saying? But it's not about the length of time. It's about the amount of preparedness that each one brings. And so if somebody is not able to be prepared, if for some reason the knowledge is not speaking to them, they deserve compassion. They don't deserve, admonitions and tirades, because it's not for want of trying. There's obviously some block, and I'm sure that people are struggling with that block. Because if it was easy to remove, they would have removed it. So this compassion must be there along with the creativity. And to have that compassion and to know that, that they are trying their best. And they will get there, because the truth of the self speaks for itself. It doesn't need advertisement. It doesn't need any kind of making up for something. It'll speak for itself. And if it's not speaking to them right now, it'll speak tomorrow. If it's not speaking tomorrow, next life is always around. So, not to worry, you see. And so the creativity must be there. The compassion must be there. And also the viveka must be there for the teacher, when to call it quits, and to say, okay, this class is done. No more, because we don't see the effort that is required being made. When the effort is there, the classes will be there. So like this, there are so many things one has to juggle, and each time it's a ascharya, it's a big ascharya. So this is a huge ascharya. And somebody asked sometime, how come this knowledge, it was a satsang question, I'm trying to recall the question, it was very interesting. How come, somebody asked Swamiji this, how come nothing works in your ashram? Because they were frustrated about something. There was some red tape they ran into and whatnot. And Swamiji said, you should rephrase the question to ask, how come things are working? So when you start to look at it this way, then you will not be disappointed. How come at least this is working? So you see, this is what is the ascharya of it. So when you start to think like, oh, how come nothing is happening? Rephrase the question and think of all the things that are indeed happening. This way one keeps hanging on to the courage. And the courage for what? To attend the next class. To listen to the next verse. And what is that next verse? Nanarena avarena proktaha yeshaha suvigneyaha bahudha chintyamanaha ananya prokte gatiratra nasti aniyanihi atarkyam
atharkyam
anupramanat. Yeah, an important verse talking about the teacher, a lot of puns, and this just really talks about why the knowledge doesn't take place despite of having a teacher. Because many times people will say, I have the teacher, I'm following such and such a person. But today somebody told me again, somebody they were following. And I said, does the person teach? They said, no. I said, okay, that's your answer. You know, why the knowledge is not taking place. And this is what, many times what happens, there is a block because the heart is given away to a person who cannot teach by the student. And that becomes a deterrent to going to the teacher who can teach. Because the heart is given, because of some karma or some shobhana adhyasa. What is shobhana adhyasa? A positive transference. On who? On somebody who looks nice and who is very kind and compassionate, perhaps a fatherly figure, motherly figure, grandfatherly figure, doesn't matter. And or somebody who has a big following, the heart is given away. And then what happens? One is unable to, greet the source of knowledge when it does come. This is a big ashcharya. So even if that knowledge comes right to you, one is unable to see the importance of it. One is unable to see what it embodies and what it stands for, because always there is this nostalgic feeling of, that guru who was my guru. And this actually really happened. Somebody studied with Swamiji, did the whole 3-year course, and at the valedictory function, only talked about that guru which that person had been with, briefly. So this just shows the force of the psychological, the psychological block here. And this whole thing about, what is this, one guru, two gurus, too many gurus, all this has to be really, really clarified, understood properly. It's like we don't get into the theological mindset. What is the Western theological mindset? There is the first, what is that injunction? You will worship, there is only one God. Okay, yes, I agree. Therefore, you will not worship other gods. Now this has me scratching the head. If there is only one God, how can I worship other gods? All the worship has to go to that one if the first thing is correct, right? So here too one has to understand that, the one who is called Guru, Gukaraha, what is Gu? Gu means ignorance. What kind of ignorance? Self-ignorance. In fact, I will even go so far as to say, Gu is not just self-ignorance, it is self-flagellation. It is where one is at war with oneself. It's almost that there are two things inside, two entities inside, and one is battling the other. The one who wants to know, the one who wants to be one with the whole, the one who wants to be total and complete, and the other one who wants to say, no, I have this small kingdom of sorrow and wants, and I want to be reigning in this small kingdom of this small dark kingdom of sorrow and wants. I want to be all over the thing. It's like somebody said, I now make you the king of the whole of India, I crown you. And the newly crowned king asks, does that include the village of Ramnagar? So if somebody is the whole king of the United States, does that include Pavo? Where is Pavo? Georgia. Population 801. Actually now 800 because now I'm here. So does that include Pavo? My Adhipatyam means my kingdom, my sense of overlordship. Does it include Pavo? Of course it includes Pavo. So here this this ignorance makes one have this long suffering individuality which one wants to just have their own flag, their own country, and their own, what is that, supremacy Of what? Of ignorance, of wrong notions about I and the world. They want that to fly, the flag of ignorance to fly high, and the other part, which is of course desirous of knowledge and wants to be integrated, that this is the conflict. Gu. And the ru, in the word guru, means the one who is able to remove that. And what does the teacher do? Teacher doesn't do anything. You do all the work. That's the wonder. Teacher just teaches. That is the magic. And the magic is in the light of this knowledge. When you allow this conflict to be exposed to the knowledge, then the conflict dies, because the conflict is not something that can be sustained in the light of the truth. When the ignorance is dragged into the light of the truth, it doesn't have anywhere to run. It doesn't have anywhere to go. Even if it tries to go, where will it go? It has to come back. So, to itself. So that is the word, the guru. And so we cannot really have a non-teaching guru. That is not a guru, because the guru means the one who removes actively through the teaching. And so a non-teaching guru is, and also the guru is used for self-knowledge, the teacher of self-knowledge. Even though in India it's common, dance guru is called guru, music guru is called guru, math guru is called guru, but that is just out of the respect given to elders and teachers in the tradition. But really guru means the remover of self-ignorance with knowledge. So here, therefore it is important to go to the correct person, this verse says. Because going to the wrong person for the knowledge will not yield correct results. Because you can go for a number of reasons. Somebody looks very nice and you want to go, you seek the teacher for comfort. You'll get comfort, but then you won't get teaching. Yeah. That's the problem. Yeah. And then sometimes people go to the guru because everyone else has gone and they also want to, belong to. It has nothing to do with the teaching. They want to belong to a group. And that's what makes people go to seek a group. Because this person has a lot of big following. So I want to be part of a whole. That's the thing. So that is not the reason to get enlightened. The reason to get enlightened is to have shamadama and seek the correct kind of teaching. So the first meaning, let's look at the meaning. It's a complex verse because each word has three meanings, two meanings. It's a pun. It's a big pun. Na means what? Everybody should know the meaning of na. Na means what? Not. Yeah. Not happening. Esha na suvigneyaha. The na should go with the word suvigneyaha. Vigneyaha, to be known, to be understood. Suvigneyaha, to be properly, whenever the word su comes, sushtu means very well understood. Well understood means without doubt, without vagueness, without error, understood. So, na suvigneyaha, this is not understood without doubt, vagueness of error, when narena avarena proktaha, prakarshena uktaha, proktaha, that which is forcefully, properly said by who? Narena, person. Avarena, an inferior person. Very blatantly the Upanishad says. Na narena avarena, through all third case, it is not well understood. What is it? Atma, I. The truth of I. Atma is not well understood when it is spoken of by an inferior teacher. Oh, who is this inferior teacher? How can the Upanishad classify teachers as superior and inferior? Well, you can, because that's what it takes. Somebody must be able to handle the teaching and make it dance and come alive, just like Nataraja. You've seen Nataraja? Who is Nataraja? You don't know Nataraja? Nataraja is Lord Shiva in motion. You can Google and see a picture. It will be very nice. So his hair is flying horizontally because it's just the whole Jagat in motion, half feminine, half masculine, and it's Lord Shiva in the form of dance. Because he is moving, we are able to have this class. If he stops moving, everything just resolves. The movement is just this beautiful, beautiful thing. Very nice. And it is, when they had this, the first 3-year course they had in PRC, California, they had a huge Nataraja in the temple. They later gave it to some temple in Michigan, I think it is now. He's in Michigan now. So anyhow, this Nataraja is just like this, the teaching has to come alive and dance in the mind. What kind of a mind? Even a mind that is, trying to be ready, it should make it ready. It should help it to it should sow the seeds at least. Whether they are ready or not is up to them. But it should sow the seeds of readiness. And for the mind that is ready, it should make it thirst more for the knowledge. And it should make, the words have to dance in the competent hands of the wielder of the pramana. The one who is not only in the form of the pramana, and what do I mean by pramana? The special means of knowledge needed to see the truth of oneself. That is what I mean by pramana. Because all the other means of knowledge that are at my disposal, such as indriyas, indriya pravritti means all the 5 sense organs, such as, what else? What other means of inference? Yeah, that had to be inferred, right? That's why it took so long. Inference, meaning, I look at the, window in the morning, I look out of the window, it's all, the road is wet. So what is my inference? It should have rained, it must have rained. I don't see the rain, but I have the ability to infer. Then, what other means of knowledge do we have at our disposal? Yeah, 2 level, more than one level inference. What is the example for that? No, that is Tatastha Lakshana. Devadatta. Devadatta does not eat during the day. He's observed. And after 1 month later, he's put on the weighing scale, he has gained a few pounds. What do you infer?
He must be eating some.
He must be eating at night because he doesn't eat during the day, so it's more than 1 step inference. What other means of knowledge do we have?
There's one from absence.
Absence is is there a flower in the palm of my hand? No. Why? Because I see the flower here in my head. I see the hand where the flower does not exist, and so there is no flower in the palm of my hand. Correct? Okay. Yeah. Then finally, what was the 4th one rather? This was the 5th one.
Something from similarity or?
Yeah, upama, not upma. What is upma? Breakfast stuff. No, upama. What is upama? That, if we say the donkey is just like the zebra but without stripes. Or we can say the other way around. The zebra is just like a donkey with black and white stripes. And like I have told you many times, this is what they did in the zoo in Israel. No, in Palestine. In Palestinian zoo, they did not have zebra. It was too expensive to get them. They just painted a couple of donkeys, and then the next day it rained. That I made up that. So that was not part of the story. So this is the 5 means of knowledge available to humankind, even to animals. The animals also make inference. Go into a cow pen or a pig pen with a big stick and start running around. They will all run away from you. Go into the cow pen with some grass in your hand. They will all slowly, they will look at each other, and the bravest one will first come, and then after that another, after that another, after that another, they will all come. They will just, surround you. They are making an inference that this is Trinapanihi. Trinapanihi means the holder of the grass. And so he looks okay if he or she is holding the grass, not too threatening, giver of food. And then the other one with a stick, brandishing the stick is what? Dandapanihi, the one who is the brandisher, the wielder of the stick. And they have inference, they do the inference. Why? Because they have tasted the stick. When they would not come back after going out to pasture, poor things have tasted the stick when they have not obeyed. They have tasted the stick of the cowherd, so they know that from before, and so they make the inference, this is a bad person because they have come to hurt us. This is the good person because they are offering us some treats, if they are going in with a bucket of food or oatmeal or whatever it is. So the animals also make the same inference. So the same set of, means of knowledge are available to us. The 5 Indriyas or the 5 Indriya Pravritti. Indriya means what? Sense organs. The 5 sense organs are called Pratyaksha Pramana because they are the primary means of knowledge upon which the inference also you have to look at something, then only you can infer. Primary means of knowledge. Then we have the one and more than one step inference, 3. Then we have the law of similarities, which is a way of knowing something. Then we have the cognition of absence, which is again a means of knowledge. Even if you search high and low, there is no means of knowledge other than this. And there is no means of knowledge to know the self. Why? Why can't I use the sight and the 5 other means of 5 senses?
Not objectified.
It's not an object. We're talking of the subject. What can be, what can be objectified? I can look, I can touch, I can smell, I can even taste a rose petal. All 4 senses are there here. I can't hear it, that's all. Maybe if here I can hear. I can say that this is a soft sound of the petals, a little whistling sound, rustling sound. So through these 5 sense organs I can enjoy the rose. Correct? But then what about Atma rose? Atma doesn't rise, first of all. And Atma is not like the rose, which can be enjoyed through the 5 senses, because the enjoyer is Atma, the truth of the enjoyer is Atma. The subject is Atma, that subject which cannot be objectified is Atma. Oh, I'm so sad, I can't objectify Atma. You don't have to objectify Atma. Why? It is self-revealing, this is what is meant. You need not objectify Atma because you always know it is there. Are you here?
Yes.
Say yes, quickly.
Yeah.
Yes. So that means what? You cannot say, no, I am not here. In saying, no, I am not here, you declare your existence. And so therefore what? This is something you cannot objectify with the 5 sense organs. And if the 5 sense organs are helpless in knowing the Atma, all the other means of knowledge based on the 5 primary means of knowledge, Pratyaksha Pramana, direct perception, are rendered useless. I can't infer that I am. Somebody tried to do that. Descartes, this philosopher. What did he say? I think, and therefore I am. So suppose, Descartes went for a few minutes without any thoughts. That means Descartes was not.
Yeah.
Thankfully, before he died, he changed. He says, I am, therefore I can think. So you cannot infer the I, because the inferer is I. With that for 1 step, 2 step. How about something like, so the donkey is like zebra, rose is like another flower, we can say. Some other fragrant flower, like violet or whatever it is. Atma is like Atma. How many Atmas are there? Let's count quickly. 1, the only thing that there is. So what are you going to compare it to? Because for comparison there should be 2 things which are similar. In fact, the Vedanta poets and the writers, they are at a loss. Who to compare it to? How to make this comparison? So at the most they can say Atma is like space without attributes. But really speaking, Atma is not even like space. You know, it's a poor comparison. So then finally cognition of absence. How are you going to cognize Atma? The truth of the world is Atma is zero. Shunya. Zero. Atma is zero means what? I am a big zero, I am telling. When I say Atma is zero, Atma means I. So therefore, you know, who is the one who is cognizing zero? I. Therefore, the word for zero in Sanskrit and many other languages is not zero. It is Pujya, the most worshipful one, because it reveals I. So beautiful. There is no zero. Because the one who says 100 or minus 100 is what? 0. 100 minus 100 is what? 0. When you say in a math problem, 5 minus 5 is what? 0. And the one, when I cognize that 0, the cognition of the 0 reveals the cognizer who's never a 0. Always a hero, never a 0, this Atma. Yes, never a 0, therefore the hero. And this, the one who cognizes the 0 reveals the cognizer who is the most worshipful. That's why we begin the morning not just with puja outside, but with puja inside. The bathing is a puja, and then we put a mark on ourselves. That is a way of, this is a sensitive energy point, which is, you know, which is a way of acknowledging the worshipful indweller that has chosen to make a home in this rattled body mind sense complex. In this imperfect body mind sense complex abides the most perfect one, the most perfect one. And so there is no worship that is complete in the tradition without worshipping the truth of that which lies within, you know. So all worship is through the soham bhavena pujayet. Soham means I am that truth which I yearn to discover. So all this, therefore we need the sixth means of knowledge, which is in the form of words, which what? Which don't reveal the Atma. Atma, as I told you, doesn't need to be revealed. What does it need to be done? If the ignorance which is making it hide, even though it is all pervasive, has to be taken down. The ignorance has to be smashed into smithereens. And this teaching in the form of words is the one that allows one to drop the presence of all the notions which keeps one from enjoying the truth of oneself and enjoying and owning up to one's own glory. So therefore the words of the Upanishad become the sixth means of knowledge. And that's why there is so much fear and doubt. Because with regard to the Upanishad, there is, oh, what am I committing to? And I feel I should commit myself. I should myself be committed. Why is this so crazy making? And this is where all this, this whole commitment issue comes out very strongly. Because the other means of knowledge are operated by the ego, the ahankara, one's own ego. So they are actually self-referential, because I am the one who sees, I am in charge of my inferences. Even if I make the wrong inference, I am the one who is in charge. And I am the one who is wielding the knowledge of similarity and cognizing the absence, etc., etc. And here comes this knowledge, this 10,000-year-old teaching through a unbroken lineage, starting from Bhagavan himself, herself, and starting from this Bhagavan, an unbroken lineage of student, teacher, student, teacher. Why student? Because the student then becomes teacher, who then teaches, and then whose student again becomes teacher. So we have this unbroken Guru Shishya lineage. And then what? I have to let go of my notions and assumptions and including the operation of those other means of knowledge, because those other means of knowledge are useless when it comes to revealing the Atma. So I have to be able to set aside my perceptions, mostly misperceptions. Those perceptions are missed perceptions anyway. I have to be able to set them aside and be receptive to letting go of my ignorance. This is why people have commitment issues when it comes to this knowledge. This is why people want to run away from gurus, want to run away from themselves really. Because there is this whole this fear of commitment, because I am no longer in control. In other means of knowledge, I am in charge, but here I have to let go of control, and the knowledge, the means of knowledge operates despite me, not because of me, despite me, somehow it operates. Even though I keep getting in the way, it operates and it reveals the truth of myself. Because you see, one thing we have to know about pramana, the means of knowledge, is that it is extremely, each knowledge, each means of knowledge is a king in its domain. What do I mean by that? Like, I can smell this flower, right? This rose flower, we can enjoy the fragrance of it. Supposing I'm having a cold and nose is blocked. So can I take the flower to my ear and say, since my nose is blocked, I'm going to smell it with the help of the ear. Can I say that? How about this? I'll take it close to my eyes and maybe I can enjoy the fragrance. The nose is just to enjoy the fragrance and to pick up the smells. The eyes are for form and color. If I cannot see the flower, if I hold it to the ear, it's not going to help. The ear is for sound. So similarly, each means of knowledge reigns supreme in the area which it reveals, and what it reveals, it is supreme. So it cannot be interchanged. So therefore you cannot say, can I somehow avoid this whole guru business, this whole teaching business, this whole Upanishad business, and then just infer my way to enlightenment, infer my way to self-knowledge. What will I say if you say that? No. Go ahead. Namaha. Keep trying, Can I, intuit my way to self-knowledge? Can I just read on my own and get to the self-knowledge? This is what it is. Each means of knowledge reigns supreme in the arena for which it is made. So too the self-knowledge in the form of not just words, but words handled by the teaching person here. Narena, not avarena. Narena parena proktaha. The opposite of avara is para. Para means the ultimate. So the narena avarena proktaha na suvigneyaha. So if it's handled, if the pramana is handled wrongly or handled by the wrong person, then it does not speak, it does not, deliver the goods. What is the goods? You. Good is the good news. That is, you are the glory. You are glorious and you are the whole. So this knowledge has to come from the correct source, because the sensitivity of the pramana is such that if it's not handled properly, it does not deliver. This is the first meaning. And then why the reason is given in the second line, bahudha chintyamanaha. Why is it so? Why are you being so finicky about the source of the knowledge? Why not we have a little elbow room and compromise? Doesn't matter how the teacher is, knowledge can take place. Why are you so finicky that the teacher should be able to handle the words properly? The teacher should make the words come alive. Why are you so stubborn about this? Because the subject matter is bahudha chintyamanaha. Chintyamanaha means thought of, contemplated upon, and content is a topic of contention. Chintyamanaha. Bahudha in manifold ways. How? Because the Atma is the one full of mistakes. There is no other thing that has been misunderstood more than the Atma. Atma cannot feel sorry for itself. Nobody understands me properly. I am there and I am invisible. Atma can say. But since Atma is Purna, complete, it doesn't say that. But you see, some people will say, what? Atma is not there. This is called Shunyavadinaha. Shunyavadinaha means the people who don't believe that there is Atma. In fact, they say no self is the truth of the self. In fact, they keep wanting to look at nothing. You can look at nothing, but who is the one who is looking at nothing? Are you sentient or insentient? Does the nothingness reveal itself in front of an insentient being? No. There is no such thing called insentient being, really. So the nothingness reveals itself or is cognized in the presence of that whose presence cannot be denied. So how can you say Atma is Shunya? Then some people say Atma is actually two, not one. Two Atmas are there. One is Atma, another is what? Paramatma. And these two they are like parallel lines. And what is it that we, as a child, I heard from the teacher the definition of a parallel line. What is that? They will never meet. It made sense then. So it's like Atma and Paramatma, they are going on two train tracks, side by side, forever. This is nonsense. But really speaking, this is what is the Bahudha Chintyamana. That there are two entities, not one, and one will always remain dasasya, 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 dasaha. What is dasa? Servant. Dasasya, dasaha means what? Servant of the servant. And then dasasya, dasasya, dasaha means servant of the servant of the servant. And then if you keep going, servant of the 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 Lord, I am. And then, what does that do? I mean, I suppose as a bhavana, as an attitude, it could bring a certain humility. Yeah, you know the word dasa. Yeah, naraha dasan nayati, dasaha naram namanti. Very good. So, that dasa I am talking. Yeah, so the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. So that attitude, that bhavana, can bring a certain humility, I suppose. And what is that humility? Humility is like, I want to keep my ego in check. And therefore, I am saying I am nothing, I'm not even enough. I'm not even a particle of dust at the foot of the Lord. Fine, But really, it cannot be a way of, there's a fine line between that and self-flagellation. What is the self-flagellation? I'm no good. Yeah, if this is the theology that you are no good, that means what? That the two is the truth or ultimate truth. When you came before to the teaching, you were enmeshed in the duality. And then after 12 years of listening to this, you are still in the duality. Why do you need the teaching? You already had the duality beforehand. Nobody wants duality. Nobody wants dissimilarity. Everybody is yearning for union, even in research, not just with the object of desire that I want to mesh. The kind of, if you go to, I don't know what, NIH and apply for a grant and say this disease is very, unique and very dissimilar to the other disease, nobody's going to give that grant. If you say, even though it looks different, I will establish that they behave in certain similar ways. People are interested in patterns, in large patterns, small patterns. That is where they find God. This is what makes every scientist a rishi. That when you look at the similarities, when you look at, certain things, when you are in touch with the law of the manifest law of the universe, you are in touch with God. That is why this fellow, uncaring that he was wearing no clothes in ancient Greece, he just sat in a bathtub, displaced some water, and the law of buoyancy he discovered and ran through the streets saying, I have discovered it, I have found it. This is what it is. And so really nobody wants separation. Bahudha Chintyamana. Still people think of it as separate. And then how to gain it also? Bahudha Chintyamana. So many. Somebody says catch the nose. Pranayama, you will gain Atma, Paramatma. And then somebody says don't catch the nose, catch the toes. if you can see them. Yeah. So catch the toes. Why can't you see them? Because there is Madhya Pradesh. What is Madhya Pradesh? The biggest state in India, which is right in the middle. Okay, so catch the toes, do some yogasana, and somehow yogify your way to enlightenment. Breathe your way to enlightenment. Inhale the self-knowledge. Exhale the ignorance. People do this. And then what? Eat your way to enlightenment. Eat lightenment. There's nothing light about eating your way to enlightenment. Yeah. Then you become guru. Guru also means heavy. Really, the word guru means heavy as opposed to laghu. Yeah. Eat your way to enlightenment. So many, all kinds of notions. And the so-called teachers have not given up the notions. Sometimes it's these notions that are, bandied about and even charged for. And another person says, these are all modern, new age set of things. Another person says, you just have to think and you can get it. You think your way to abundance. Think positive. Think your way to prosperity. And then similarly, think your way to enlightenment. Oh, really? How to do that? For that, you have to give $3,000 for the next weekend. After that, I'll tell you. And then another person says, money is the root of all problems. Everything. It's because of money that you're suffering. Because see, you have so much attachment. If you don't have it, it's a problem. If you have it, it's a problem. Oh yeah, that is also true. So what should I do? Give me all your money and then you will be relieved of every problem. You will have instant vairagya. Of course, I'll be very happy and you will also be very happy. Bahudha chintyam anha. These kinds of things keep going around. There in California, there is one book that comes out every 2-3 months. Freely they distribute it. It just is there everywhere, every marketplace you find it. And it is called... used to know the name of it, Common Ground or something like that. It's a spiritual magazine. First it used to be small, now it is the latest one I saw in my last trip, this thick, huge. And everybody takes out advertisements. And somebody said, I want to pay and can we put, I said no, no thank you. Because when you look at it, it is scary. All kinds of things, some stand on one leg and get enlightenment, do this and get a massage your way to enlightenment and then, do something else and sit cross-legged for enlightenment. All kinds of things. People don't know what the problem is. And since people are ignorant of the problem, they're also ignorant of the solution. And there are masses and masses of people just waiting at the border to just come and collect your money, touting so many ways for this enlightenment. Because if ignorance is real, it cannot be removed. If ignorance is unreal, we better pack up. It's this mithya nature of ignorance which is not understood. So therefore, this knowledge that has to come and remove this ignorance is also not properly understood. More about that next week. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Any questions are there?